And we're back for reviewing episode 14. Yeah, 14 of the Rurouni Kenshin anime. I'm here with Spirit Magic Helmet. The title of the
Hey,
episode
everybody.
is Yahiko's Battle. What?
Oh, I just said hey everybody when you called my name out.
Yahiko's Battle. To begin this one, I would just say that like this episode kind of just further cements that I like Yahiko, and it kind of cements why I like him. Um, I also want to bring up a little bit of just before we dive into the episode. I had to look up Spoomy just to make sure because I was kind of curious if she was older than Yahiko. And I guess I should have known because usually girls and boys at that age, girls are taller than the boy regardless. The boy doesn't get taller until he's a teenager. But yeah, they're both 10 years old. I don't know why I thought Yahiko was 9, but apparently Yahiko's 10 as well. They're the exact same age, which kind of like continues the whole like this girl is pretty much a love interest for well will be a love interest for Yahiko because she's already crushing on him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you go.
I thought that was kind of sweet. I didn't expect this because I was like, geez, like I thought it was a different character maybe, but no, I think about the other character I'm thinking about is at least 5, 6 years older than he is. But I guess and now that we'll talk about the episode. Yahiko's battle. Basic premise. Yahiko's apparently well at the very beginning of the episode we see that apparently Yahiko's been sneaking off without Cairo noticing after he does his training really early in the morning apparently.
Well, she
Uh
is no, isn't she? She's got theories about why he's doing it and everything.
but she really doesn't know. I mean, she was theorizing. I mean, her and Sonosuke don't know, and they get theorizing that well, actually Kenshin and all of them have a theory. But apparently, all of them are right in some really interesting way, which is kind of funny. Kaoru thinks he's off sneaking food, while Sonosuke thinks he's off to, trying to be a little girl, and Kenshin, being the protagonist that he is and the decent guy, thinks that Yahiko's off trying to train by himself. Yeah, that was kind of funny. They all had this like idea that he was like, well, Kyra think he was doing something illegal, and Sonosuke thought he was, being like being a typical guy. Apparently, even though Yaku's like 10 years old, at that point you're not interested in girls anyway. I'm surprised Sonosuke had that thought, but, but that was kind of funny. But yeah, he's like sneaking out to do some like to get a job. Well, he got a job at that restaurant that we saw them eating at several episodes ago. At this point, around like 10. Um, and he's there like doing some training with his lower body, like lifting like heavy rice bags. There's this girl apparently that he's working with too, who's I will say when she first showed up, I was like, and she tripped. I was like, why are anime girls so clumsy? Why? Because like she trips, and I think she trips on nothing. Like she's just clumsy, and I guess that's supposed to make her cute. It's like I mean, yeah, she's adorable, but it's just like why?
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's adorable without the tripping. Why you gotta do that? But but yeah, she's got her own like uh self doubt. Apparently, she cries a lot, and Yaiko kind of scolds her a little bit, telling her why he doesn't like people that are you know uh, jittery and jittery and crying a lot. She apologizes and he like walks off, but apparently all this is happening, and Kaoru, Sonosuke, and Kenshin are like somehow stealthily watching all this happen from the front door from the door that all this is happening at, like the front door to the back of the restaurant. Apparently, Yahiko didn't notice them at all, which is kind of interesting. Um, but they all apparently are right. That he was like this, like the every theory they had was completely correct. It was just they didn't know how it was gonna coalesce into like one giant idea. Then the crew sits down and eat. Apparently, the main head waitress was told by him to not let them know. Apparently, he wanted to go and buy something. Later on, we find out he's been trying to save Bunny to buy a reverse sword. Um, Kitchen kind of like lets him down easy, which is kind of funny that he just pats him on the shoulder and just smiles, and he's just like, "Buddy,
He's like,
that's gonna cost a lot more money than you currently have."
he's like, really?
I thought that was funny. Actually, I was like thinking, I was like, Jeez, like that's got you kind of messed up.
I
he's like,
thought it was funny, but I also saw it as kind of a metaphor that he said that costs a lot. Like I wondered if he meant costs a lot, like more than just it costs more than money. Like it costs more than money.
no,
It costs more than money.
I think it really is just money. I don't think it's really a metaphor. Um,
Why not?
the build a sword, from what I understand, and this is from a long time ago, from when I'm pulling from. But from what I understand, like about like forging a sword like the one that Kenshin has, you've already
Hmm.
looked up that there's only one sword in existence like that one. There's probably a reason for that. I think it might be because I think when you're forging a blade from metal, it's really weird. I think it's really hard to try to forge a blade that the sword the side of the sword that you think are normally sharp. I think it's really difficult to make that side on the reverse end, and like it probably takes a really skilled swordsmith to even make something like that. Which is probably why there aren't really many, if any, recorded instances of a sword that's reversed like that. I feel like because like I mean, sword for a forging of any kind is like takes talent, and that's why there's a career out of it. You spend most of your life learning how to temper metal and stuff like that. I don't think it's like I think if you really want to get a sword like that, it'd be really expensive. And if they do, apparently, from the way Kenshin sounds like, they forge swords like that anyway in that time period. Um, I bet because there's really no there's probably no real money in making a sword like that. They probably would charge an arm and a leg just to get your hands on it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that your meaning is wrong. It just sounded like there might have been kind of a double entendre there that like there was more reasons than one that it would cost a lot. That's all.
I think he really just meant it literally. Now the thing is, I had a sneaking suspicion that Kenshin did not pay a dang dime for his
But I
sword.
mean, Kenshin, if you think about it, Kenshin paid a lot for his sword. Like he went through a lot to get the wisdom to use it. He went through a lot to like continues to go through a lot. You know what I mean? Like I just it seemed like a statement that easy to take on the surface level, but then if you think about it a little bit, it had a little bit of depth.
I don't think. I mean, maybe, but I don't think. If I'm being, I don't think there's really much there. I think he was just being. I think Kenshin just patting him on the shoulder, which he was just trying to be nice about it. That because everybody else is laughing at the idea, of him with a reverse sword. But it was just like, so I don't get why that was funny. If I had to be real, I kind of felt bad for him there because it's like, I mean, really the only reason they're laughing because he's a kid. But and at first when he said Sakamoto, I mistook that as like some like very rich sake at first. When I was like looking at that, I was like, he's saving money for a really expensive drink. And then I read the word correctly. I was like, oh, reverse sword. That makes more sense. I think Haiku said he got money for an expensive drink to have when he's older. I don't know why I mistook that word for alcohol, but I guess it was one of those like everything was happening too dang fast near the end of it.
You were too busy missing the dramatic irony of this cost of the sword.
I wasn't even thinking he was trying to get a sword, which is really weird now you think about it. It's like apparently there's a place for you to buy them things versus having them forged. I'm guessing there might be reverse swords somewhere else being sold in that world. I have no idea. But
I'm guessing that it's something that they make customized.
but before all that, pretty much we find Yahiko working, and they're all comfortable now as they're eating. But then Sabume, the little waitress, she is probably called to a table, and we get introduced to these episodes, goons of the week. That's what I'm called. This episode's goons of the
Goons.
week. There's a swordsman who is like the head of some really prestigious family. Yada yada. We know how this goes. Uh, is there any like history with these guys, like Lord Miko and everything, or is just you couldn't find anything?
Oh no, I didn't look. I didn't even think to look that up.
Oh,
They
okay.
seem like such low level goons. I didn't think to look the name up.
Okay,
That would
never
have been a
mind then.
great
We'll just
idea.
go with low level goons. I don't think it really matters. I don't think it really matters. That's why I call
No,
them
I mean
goons of the week. I don't think it matters.
I'm always looking. But that's exactly how I thought about it. I'm like, oh, they're just some goons, and I didn't think to look to see if there was any name
I mean, I
thing
could look at
specific.
Lord Miko to see if he even existed, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. Do Mito period. Yeah, they just thought it was some like no, you didn't miss anything. All I'm getting is like Miko in general. That's a different thing altogether. Unless heck, got little shamans. That has nothing to do with anything. That's totally different. That's Miko as a job. Never mind. Nope. As I can tell, I mean, I only did like a surface level. I don't think I mean maybe you can find something with somebody's name like that, but probably doesn't really matter. Maybe they're like a name in history that they just they pull out for some reason. I don't know. But these low level goons who work for the House of Miko, I'm guessing, they Sabumi herself apparently is like indebted. I'm guessing based on the way they treat her to them because they must have did something for her or whatever. But like they're using her to get the money in the restaurant. But apparently she finds out that Sabumi finds out that apparently the head of this restaurant takes the money with them to go to the bank, I'm guessing, or takes it home with them. So like everything every day. These goons take her out to the back, and they apparently had asked her to make key molds for them to make keys to get inside the building. I did not know this building had locks.
So if they could get in there without having to confront anybody.
Hmm? What?
So that they could get in there without having to confront anybody physically.
It makes sense. It was interesting that they had locks to get in there. I didn't expect that I guess the doors would be held by a lock, but I guess if they're making swords out of metal, I guess they can make padlocks to lock things down. Or lock the safe down. This makes more sense. Is that a
Yeah,
fly?
and it makes sense for like at least important buildings like full of valuable things to have a lock on them, right?
I guess I was because I was just really thinking like it was a sliding door. I didn't think they would lock down a sliding door. Maybe I'm not thinking about it in the right way. But like pretty much all this happening, Tsubame being meek is like she doesn't want to be helping them out. She gets hit. Yahiko gets involved. Apparently jumping down from the building, he lands on his feet and he's still tired because when he lands, he's like, "Oh, I felt that." And
Yeah.
it pretty much then he starts making moves on the soldiers. He starts knocking every single one of the, well, not every single. He starts knocking down the people that confront him in a one-on-one fight. We see him that Yaku's really good. He's getting there. He's actually taking on what he's been learning from the dojo. It's really very useful. He's really he's skilled enough to take on thugs at least at this point in his training.
Yeah, one at a time, he was able to take three out with no trouble at all. It's only after the guy throws the thing in his legs and sabotages him, which we later find out throwing things at his legs is kind of that guy's special move anyway.
I thought it was weird. Also, from the way that I guess we could talk about this. Well, we'll talk about this now. I mean, the way he swings his sword in the alleyway. At first, I thought maybe the sword swing was going to be too wide, considering how like narrow that alleyway was that he dragged him in there. I thought maybe his sword was going to get stuck horizontally. He wasn't going to be able to move it. I'm actually surprised that apparently that was not the case. I guess it was wider than I was expecting it to be. But I guess the throwing stuff at the feet though, it sounded like he was more like going to cut his foot in half or something, or cut a toe off or something like that. I mean, luckily Yahiko was able to
I thought
like
he was going to cut off one of his feet entirely.
he was gonna cut something off. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean
He had,
he
he had a blade, like he had a regular blade, like it wasn't like a wooden blade that he could beat on people with, like the other ones were.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know what he was planning to cut off because it looked like when he swung his sword down, he had it angled up, almost like he was gonna go swing up. So
Yeah, but
he probably had another move with that sword, but he didn't get a chance to get it off before Yahiko put his foot on it. But before all that, Yahiko, as Spirit has said, as he's taking on these guys one on one, the head guy is realizing that they need to like do something dirty, so he throws something at his feet. tells them to go after him and start beating on him. Subumi doesn't want this to continue, so essentially, well, before all that, Haru, Sonosuke, and Kenshin are in the back watching all this happen. Apparently, as Kenshin is like letting this happen, Sonosuke gets on him like, "Why are you letting this happen?" And Haru does the exact same thing, showing that at least that she cares about him. And so does Sonosuke. They have a little bond going on here. And then Kenshin's like, he doesn't, he shouldn't get involved as long as like, he doesn't want help. Like, he wants to see how this fight, it's gonna pan out. Which I mean, it's kind of like Kenshin. He doesn't want you. He wants to respect Yahiko's samurai spirit. I guess is the best way to put it. 1-on-1. Because I mean, Yahiko was winning. It wasn't like he wasn't. It wasn't until he got ganged up on unfairly that he was losing.
Not just ganged up on unfairly, but knocked down in the first place too.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Kenshin saw all of this and he was like, he wants to see how this is gonna pan out. So let's get makes an interesting like it's not an allegory, but comparison of like a lion sending their cub out on their own to fight. Though apparently Sonosuke didn't believe that Kenshin was this kind of cruel person. We'll find out later on. So I don't know why he made this comparison in his mind to begin with, but I guess they wanted us to know what he was thinking at the time. But first after he gets gained up on, Subumi gives them the key molds and they leave. And then apparently Aiko knows how long it takes to make a key from a key mold. Maybe this is general knowledge, but Prince says they're not gonna strike for at least 2 days, so he's gonna try training at the dojo, and he puts up like several like at the dojo. He ends up putting up like several flat planks on a tree like a dummy to learn how to fight multiple enemies at once before he's even able to start training on that. Garo comes out saying that this is useless. Like these planks wouldn't give you the necessary training to fight multiple samurai at once because swordsmen are going to be moving differently at different speeds and at different angles. Like it's not going to be um it's not going to be a good tool to learn how to fight. Which I honestly don't think that's true. Like maybe knowing how to target or be able to turn around and see and strike would be a good use of that dummy. But I mean, he doesn't go through with it after that. Cairo then tells him that which I guess is interesting because this comes back later on of people who use the life-giving sword. Generally, she says people who are using the sword to fight for others generally are not supposed to lose. And I feel like that's kind of cool that she lays that down for him to give him the push he would need later on to fight with that lord with that's cheating in a one-on-one fight with Yako later on. But that was kind of cool that she kind of gave him that little lesson. Like he's learning a bit from her, even though he doesn't want to admit it, which is also really good. That's pretty cool.
He's learning a lot from her. He's been getting stronger. He came in the last big fight, the final fight before in the last episode. He was able to come along for that and keep up.
Yeah, I'm not denying. I'm not.
Really really starting to prove himself in his growth.
I kind of just want to see him in a real one-on-one fight with I mean, not like a dangerous enemy, but I'm waiting for that fight to happen. But yeah, he's learning. I mean, later on, he's later on the fight with that guy with the sword, even though he kind of gets tricked with his signature move, or like a cheating move, but he says I can see the sword movement, which is like, oh, that's cool. He's able to see the sword move now with his eyes. He's able to pick up on where it's moving. It's a nice thing. Like at least if you're gonna get in a fight with a guy with a sword, you better be able to track where his blade's gonna move. Uh, but it's like he after all that, they show back up. To the thugs show up now wearing masks, quote unquote, to get ready to steal from the dojo. The leader guy, holds up the keys, saying, "We got the keys to get inside." Yako dives in, takes the keys, and runs off. Because before all that, Kenshin gives Yako advice of how to deal with multiple, people at once in a fight. Kenshin tells him to pretend to run and bring the fight to him. Which Yako does a good job at first, but then obviously the guy who's more skilled in a one-on-one fight or whatever, group fighting, realizes what he's trying to do and has them try to gang up on him in the narrow alleyway. And before all this happens, apparently Kenshin and Sanosuke both were following him, following Yahiko to the fight with him, to the battle, and they're on the roof at the end of the alleyway, staring at the enemies menacingly. And apparently, some of these guys knew who Kenshin was, kind of, and they knew who Sanosuke was, and they all backed off.
Zanza. They called him Zanza, which is kind of cool that that name still comes up.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, that's probably how most people know him. They know him by face anyway, so yeah, that makes sense. They see
He
all
has like
this.
a separate name in the underworld than he does in regular life.
Yeah, I guess that's true. They see these two, well, Kenshin more staring at them, like the way Kenshin was looking at him too. It was like one of those, like, he could cut you with the way he looks at you. Is that
Yeah, you
kind
don't
of
want to be
sharp
around that.
glance? It's like, good gracious, man. But what?
You don't want to be around that in a dark alley.
I don't think you want to be near that at all, dark alley or not.
Well, it's funny because he wasn't. They weren't a dark
I mean,
alley.
yeah, if well, I mean, they were in a dark alley. Kenshin was on top of the roof. What dark alley was. But all this is happening, and they run away, and the Miko dude sees them. Well, doesn't see him up there. Yaiko realizes what's going on, and he's like, "Why are they running away?" And he looks behind him, and apparently Sanosuke and Kenshin duck behind the other side of the roof so that Yahiko doesn't quote unquote notice them. I'm guessing based on the way this ends, Yahiko knew they were there. And as this fight's about to continue, Sabume apparently has been following Yahiko throughout the dark alleyway. Was about to get involved, and then Karu stops her from like getting involved in the fight. And Furnace explains that let Yahiko take care of this. He's trying to protect you, but also tells her too that like kind of interesting the way she phrases this about like how she's acting. She doesn't need to act this way anymore. Of being, I guess, like fidgety or jittery. I don't know where that was coming from. It sounded like she was talking to her about like you don't have to act a certain way being a girl. At first, that's what thought where this was gonna go, but apparently that's not where it went, which is kind of shocking based on the way she was talking to her. But like I guess like act more confident in yourself because Yako's doing this for yourself, doing this for you, and like if Yako did this and succeeded and you didn't change, then it would have been all for naught. Which is kind of cool that she talked to her about that. Um, and apparently followed Kenshin and Sanosuke. I'm guessing they didn't know she was there. I don't know. It wasn't really addressed. Because the cover just kind of showed out of nowhere. And like after that pep talk, Sabume cheers Yahiko on. Which, by the way, after this point, from the very beginning of the episode, she kept on calling Yahiko little Yahiko. He kept on begging
Mm-hmm.
her to stop. But at this point, she actually just yells Yahiko's name so that he can do it and doesn't use the little part of it. And I thought that was kind of cool and kind of a little bit of a growth of character for her, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think she still calls him little later on, but it's kind of cool
She
that
does
she.
like almost immediately later on. She calls him little again.
But yeah, she cheers him on, and then as Spirit brought up that special move, which is to sweep low at the person's feet. Yahiko realizes this is about to happen. He lifts his foot up. After she cheers him on, he manages to catch his sword beneath his foot. The guy apparently is shocked by this. I'm actually kind of surprised no one attempted to do this before, but apparently not.
I think it was the speed at which he did it because he realized that both feet were in jeopardy, not just the one that the guy was aiming for, and he was able to kind of like predict the guy's move and then quickly put his foot down and like respond so that quickly to everything. I'm guessing that this guy was not used to people having that kind of processing power in the middle of battle. It's not that great of a trick, but I mean, for a guy that's basically the goon of the week.
I guess I kind of just preferred it. Like he was just not used to somebody putting their foot down on his sword. I mean, I guess at the speed at which it happened to, I guess I will. I mean, it was animated in such a way that was kind of funny to me because his face changed, like what, and then just smacks him on the head, knocking him out. In my mind, after that happened, I just said, flawless victory. Even though it really wasn't flawless, but I'm gonna let Yahiko have this.
That wasn't even Yahiko's final form.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. But Yahiko wins, and then pretty much complains that he sees Kara, like, what are you doing here? And then she's like, then she points to, I guess, about to say something, and before she's able to get anything out, Yahiko calls out Kenshin and Sanosuke, who both decide to pretend to be cicadas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? No, so that's what they were. I thought they were trying to be like birds or something like that. I didn't know they were trying to pretend to be
Or maybe a space duck.
quack.
Quack, quack. Oh, the majestic space duck. Quack.
Team 4 star references for anybody who doesn't get that. Um, but after all that's said and done, Sabume apologizes to Yahiko, and well, not apologizes, but thanks Yahiko. He says it's nothing, and then she pretty much she's saying that she's grateful, and then proceeds to call him little Yahiko again, but he doesn't really complain to her about it. But that was little bit of a sweet moment. I'm guessing Yahiko's still gonna work at that restaurant. I don't see why he wouldn't. But after everything's settled down, everybody like Koro's gonna walk Sabumi back to her home, and then Yahiko, Kenshin, and Sonosuke are gonna walk back. Yahiko's like, okay, all said and done, and Sonosuke gets on him, and is like, no, we're not done here. We're trying to figure out like why, like what were you trying to buy that you're trying to like work in secret for? And as we already discussed earlier, he was trying to buy a reverse blade, and apparently Sonosuke and Kenshin found that funny. Sonosuke more so though, but I mean, it is what it is. And it probably did not want Pyro knowing or hearing, and she's still hurting, like, because she was still within earshot. I feel like that's kind of wrong, though. I mean, he's trying to buy this sword for himself, and then, they're just still laughing at him because he's small, and I guess the sword would be much bigger than he is, but he wasn't trying to get it for now, he was trying to get it for later. But, yeah, like, Kenshin brings him down, like, that's gonna cost way more than, like, that's expensive. It's like that's kind of funny that just the way he just like let him down slowly is like that's expensive. So it is so it is. So it's like, and that's how that was the last thing he said about it. It wasn't like it was a no that he couldn't get it, but it was probably gonna be a lot of money for him to buy it. And then the credits roll, and then post credits. Which, by the way, I did watch the post credits.
You managed to get to the post credits for once.
Yeah, I actually
I
found out
wanted
those
to
post
mention the
credits, which
I
wasn't
wanted to mention that the post credits were new ones, but I didn't see anything special like to point out when I watched them. Did you?
really. You didn't notice in the new ending theme there was a character that was not that
I
seemed.
did notice that. I did say, "Oh, I didn't know. I don't know who that guy is yet."
That's
Good
pretty much
point.
about it that I would say that's of noteworthy in that thing. He didn't show up in the beginning news song, so I'm almost wondering if like that they're gonna change this beginning song again. I guess I don't know because he showed up at the end, which is kind of weird because I expected him to be in the beginning in the first intro song, but I don't know why that was the case that he was at the ending. Maybe they did it on purpose. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not gonna say any much more than that. I mean, he's obviously important because he put him in front center in the ending song. So leave for you to speculate on that. But then past the new ending song, um, we see Yaiko training again, and he pauses for a minute after a couple of swings and checks his hand. He's got like calluses on his hands, which usually happens when you're using your hands a lot for something. Like your hands like gripping something really hard, and then he notices he's getting stronger. Right, he presses his arms, and he's like he just smiles, and he just keeps on swinging the sword. So he's seeing improvement. He's seeing the improvement that he wants to see. So that's really good, and that's just how the episode ends. It's kind of like a nice little like Yakuko's getting better. Is basically, I guess, the best way to put it.
And training harder than ever because his hands weren't roughed up in the beginning of the first episode. like the tone that they set at the beginning was like, "Why are you skipping class? Why are you coming late to training?" And then you find out he's been doing more than ever, like when he was out there working and saying he kept repeating things like, "This is even harder than Kenshin's training for me." And so you find out that what they thought he was doing was slacking off, either interested in a girl or eating or something like that. And then you find out that he's been working harder than ever. And then at the end of the episode, they show that he's even working harder now. Like, you know what I mean? With that like last few minutes, the last few seconds of the episode are very similar to the first few, with him going through the same movements and everything like that. It's just in the last episode, he looks back at his hands, realizes they're either blistered or roughed up a little bit from like all this hard work, smiles about it, and continues on training hard. So it's a really touching last moment. Show like one last little testament to the power of his character.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's like I'm like I remember as when I got to him, it's like this is like why I like I mean like everything he went through, his character, the way they describe, the way he's been characterized so far, it's a step up for him. And like right now, and like okay, clearly they're building him up to get involved in an actual confrontation some point later on down the road. Who knows when? Like they're gearing him up for that. He's learning the swords technique. Granted, it doesn't seem he's learning any real like techniques from the sword style that he's practicing on, but I'm guessing right now that he needs to just to get the basics down before he's able to use the technique from the sword style that he's training under. I had expected because he was asking for like a way to deal with groups of people. I'm surprised Cairo didn't try to like tease like a technique maybe meant to deal with it, or even Kenshin try to tease like a technique that he knows of that he can like take advantage of. And granted, the technique he did give him was helpful. Unfortunately, it didn't work. It didn't work for too long because the guy caught on really quick, which is actually kind of shocking too that he caught on as quick as he did. You think he would have caught him like too late, but no, he didn't catch on too late.
About the alleyway trick, you mean?
Yeah, I mean I know it wasn't. I know
What threw me in,
it wasn't really.
what threw me about the alleyway trick is that like it felt like even if you do catch on with that, like it should still work at that point. If they're gonna like they either have to retreat or fight him on his terms. So I didn't understand why he needed backing up at all because there was only three more guys ahead of him and he'd just taken out the two in like almost one move. So I was surprised they felt like he needed to back up at all. I guess
I mean, there was
because
less
his
people
approach
in the
was
alleyway
rarely.
before he caught. I mean, it was more people in the alleyway when he before he caught on. It was only like maybe like there's just enough room
It
for all
looked
three
like
of
there
them
were
to
six.
charge him.
It looked like there were six total, and it looked like they couldn't come at him more than two at a time. And it looked like he took out two right off the bat, and that there were three more henchmen and then the main guy. And the main guy's strategy was he told them to wear him down and come at him slowly, which would made me think that they were going to wear him out so that the main guy like would have the best chance of killing him at the end, and maybe that's why they chased the three guys off so that there'd be a fair fight. But other than that, I just was like, he'll probably take those three guys out either way, and it's the boss of the three guys that's the only real threat there, as emphasized by the fact that he kind of takes out a real sword, where the other guys were still fighting with wooden
I mean,
swords.
regardless of what you think of that, if it was cheap or not, I mean, low sweeping of a blade actually is a battle technique or a battle tactic. You know, I mean,
You're the
like
one that said it's cheap. I said it was a signature move or a special move of his.
I call the first thing cheap. The second one I didn't really comment on. The one with the actual sword. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, going at the feet, regardless if you think it's cheap or not. I mean, with the real sword, it actually is like a dangerous. It isn't really a cheap move. It's like it's if it's a part of his sword technique style that he's honed or he's mastered, quote unquote, what he said. Um, as messed as that is, though, I wonder really how many people that's she worked on, based on the fact that he's really confident in it. It must have worked on a few people. I can only imagine. Um,
Throwing the sword at him earlier, the wooden sword at the beginning to trip him up when he was already outnumbered, is probably better described as dishonorable.
I guess I at the same time I guess he didn't really see him much as a threat to bother being serious. or honorable.
Yeah.
But yeah, like not really much to say here. I mean, yeah, it was a good episode. I'll say that much. I guess it was something needed for Yahiko because we've already seen everybody else up to this point. You know, Yahiko getting his own episode was actually really nice. Um, I think let me get much more to say. Yeah, this is a pretty not much, not much to say other than what I just said.
Yeah, it's almost a filler episode, except that we're learning about one of the main characters. It's almost like or like almost like a slice of life episode or something like that. Like it's really hard. I know it's an action packed episode, but it's like because it's so focused on emphasizing Yahiko's strength of character and potential and everything else, it almost just felt like diversion. You know what I mean? Like a diversionary from the main theme. They had the main fight was over. They had an episode like that they could kind of flirt around with a little bit, so they did.
I wouldn't really
I
call
like
this filler mainly because like I mean this is insane.
not quite filler, but maybe like almost slice of life.
I would call this slice of life. I mean, it's the whole idea of a slice of life is just seeing a character live in a space, and that's what he was doing. The city is kind of small too, because he was able to walk pretty quickly. You know, he was able to sneak out and get to the restaurant pretty quickly. So wherever the dojo is, it isn't too far.
Yeah,
Also, Kenshin does make mention of like that. I guess like making use of that runaway tactic is you need to have like good like lower body strength to be able to make use of to be really quick. So maybe it's one of those things like maybe Yahiko will use later on, like in a situation where maybe he's outnumbered. So he made use of it here, I guess, but I guess it wasn't really too effective because he still needed Kenshin and Sanosuke's help for one reason or another. I had expected when he said that I found you may have like gotten upper hand on this, but like I had expected to be like somebody behind him because Yahiko's back was like open to two ways of getting in and out. Like behind him, I had expected to be some minions behind there that were gonna charge in on his command, but I'm surprised that didn't happen.
because he wasn't clever enough. He was just a goon.
Yeah, I guess with that, this is like a short podcast episode.
It's still 45 minutes for a 20 minute episode.
Yeah, it was much shorter than I was expecting, but I mean, I guess that's what it is. We're gonna review the next episode, which is if I can pull that up. Hey, you have it here. Episode 15. That man, Rai Judah. I think is how you pronounce that. I do not know that name.
Rajuda sounds fine to me. You don't know that name? Well, it's obviously that man.
I don't know that man either.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should have studied it. Learn more about that man.
Say that man's against people's religion.
Oh my god.
Okay, before I say something else that probably sounds really stupid, thank you guys for stopping by, and we'll see you guys the following week. Thank you guys for
Yeah,
watching, and I also want to point out thank you guys for watching on the YouTube channel for these podcast episodes. I'm noticing the number of views going up and likes as well.
oh, very nice.
So
Cool.
I hope that eventually at some point you guys start commenting so we can get some feedback going between us the next following video. But I mean, you don't have to. That's not a requirement. Just keep watching. Um, we'll come back with
Probably
this.
just gonna.
Hmm?
It's probably gonna say to make Spear a mod.
I think you're already a mod. I
No, I'm not.
think you are.
Nope, I'm not anything. Not even a bot.
Let's see if this is even possible, like right now. You got a long name, dude. What the heck?
Spear and Magic Helmet.
I get the reference, but I'm just saying you got a long username.
I like my username. I'm very happy with it. Oh, yeah, I'm a moderator. I don't know
Don't.
how to do mod stuff, but now I get a mod view.
This is what happens when you give Spear toys he does not need. Thank you. Have a good night, folks.